And that's how the theme song goes. Welcome back to the Constitutionals podcast. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website cpluscomedy.com. Like I said, it's a website. Go there. Okay, so let's get right into it. It's rare. Midday record for me. Actually, morning record. It's 11:15 a.m. The day before this is supposed to go up. I'm getting way ahead of myself for scheduling. You know why? It's none of your business. That's the reason why. All right, let's hop right into it. I basically this weekend had a Steve Carell themed weekend. I rented two movies that I've completely forgot that he was in both, and it just so happened that Saturday night was spent with my boy Steve. If you don't know Steve Carell, he's the fellow from The Office. He's also from Foxcatcher. Why did I mention that movie? There are 30 other movies I could have said. I said Foxcatcher. The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Anchorman. No, Foxcatcher with him and Channing Tatum as his weird sexual being type friend. Anyway, I rented Despicable Me 3 and Battle of the Sexes. One of those movies I did not enjoy. One of those movies I liked a lot. One of those movies was a waste of 89 minutes of my life. And let's just start with that one. Despicable Me 3. I did that movie. If the 20 of you that subscribe to this podcast, if you've been listening, you know I'm an avid defender of the Suicide Squad movie and the shows and movies that regular people typically don't like, but I enjoy. Despicable Me 3 is not entertaining in the slightest. It's a jumbled mess story-wise, and I think that Illumination had a lot of issues juggling the characters the 9 characters that it had in the film. And it's sad that a movie that you can have a high like Despicable Me 1, then go to Despicable Me 2, which is, I can't remember anything in that movie. But then you have Minions, which was a really good spinoff, kind of like how Penguins of Madagascar is even better than the original Madagascar movie because they learn. And then you come to this, and it's a movie. This movie has grossed $1 billion, $1 billion. Jesus, and it was made for $80 million. So Illumination doesn't care how it was received, and just knocked the mic. I would go so far to say that it's not even entertaining for children. If the barometer for what is quote unquote good or bad for a children's movie, especially a children's movie, if it's just being bright lights and fart jokes, Jesus, just jokes all that just don't make sense and a nonsensical story, then this would fall into the latter camp of being bad. It just wasn't. It wasn't up to snuff to what the first movie was. The first movie had a clear target. What was his goal? First movie was Gru wanted to be the main character. Gru. Speaking as if I had just analyzing this movie, just having an analytical notion about this movie. Anyway. So you have Gru, and he's a villain, and he wants to be the top villain, and then you have these little girls who want to be adopted. And then that's the story. And then those two worlds converge. And then that's the story. And then you have Despicable Me 2, which is, again, like I said, I do not remember. So I am going to have to take a refresher course. You got, now you have Gru, and he's officially these little girls' dad. And then you have this woman, Lucy, Kristen Wiig, who comes and is going to be what is she? She's an anti-league villain agent. Okay, this is all Wikipedia, so knocked the mic again. All right, so then she's an agent that's hunting Gru down. Turns out she falls in love with Gru, and now she's their mom. And then I don't know who the villain was in that second movie, so don't even. He's a Mexican wrestler was a bad guy, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, and then we have the third movie, which is for the first half hour, four or five things happen. You got Gru finds a brother. Gru and Lucy get fired. Gru finds out he has a brother. And then they go meet their brother. The minions leave, except for 2 minions, and then the Margot Miranda Cosgrove's character is a boy proposes to her, and then the two other little girls are looking for a unicorn. So that all happens within the first half hour of the movie, and then most of those story threads are tied up by the 40 minutes in, about an hour in, and then you have another half hour to go. What's there to do? And I feel like they wasted Trey Parker. If you're gonna get a big guy and it's from South Park, you don't waste him on an 80s villain who just throws out 80s puns that kids won't enjoy. I guarantee that was a character for the adults, and it did not play well. And I'm a young boy, and I understood every reference. Anyway, it just wasn't good. It did not stand up to the other movies. And I'm sad to say that I like the Minions movie more than I like this movie. And the Minions movie is really annoying because it stars Minions, and Minions are annoying. They should do a Minions Rabid crossover. The Raving Rabbids from the Rayman series, the video game series. They should do a Minion, and they're both French. Just Despicable Me is made by French Illumination, and it's called Illumination Entertainment. And then we got Raven Rabbids made by Ubisoft, or Ubisoft, whatever. So we should do that. And one of my biggest issues with this Despicable Me 3 is that there's a fourth one in development. Oh, good Lord, why? Just let it die. Two of my biggest issues. How long has it been since Gru adopted these girls? Because I think they're all the same age. I know they recast the younger girl, the youngest girl, but I'm pretty sure they're all the same age. I'm pretty sure this movie takes place within a year because they don't grow up, and it doesn't seem like, and it wouldn't take place in real time in the 7 years since the first one came out. When the first one came out, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. 2010, the first 8 years since it came out, because they would be adult girls. So I'm assuming a year, because that's how things would work. Anyway, and my other issue is, if you're gonna have the Minions leave and try to be their own villains, or and go to jail and all this stuff and escape from jail, that's their story. That's like the G plot. There are 9 plots in this movie, and that's the G plot, and that's the 7th letter of the alphabet. That's what Young Jock told me. Oh God, Young Jock, what's he up to? I think he put out some music last year. Anyway, so if you're gonna have the Minions leave, let it be one of the 3 Minions from who's leading. They created this other Minion called Mel, who looks just like the other Minions, who was in charge of the Minions revolting and leaving Gru after he decides he doesn't want to be. After getting fired, he doesn't want to go back to villainy. So what they should have done was take one of the 3 main Minions from the Minions movie spinoff, Kevin, Stewart, and Bob, or Bob, one of them. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Take Bob. He's the youngest and he's the dumbest and he's the most adorable. Let him be in charge of those renegade Minions, and then have Kevin and Stewart go with Gru and Lucy and the other people to Drew's place. And the name of his brother's Drew, and that really pisses me off. I don't care if they're twin brothers. Don't introduce this stuff, and it's like if you're watching a sitcom and the characters' parents haven't been talked about for 5 years of that sitcom, and then season 6, episode 12, the parents of the main character are introduced. Don't waste my time with this. And they wasted Jenny Slate in this movie too. I'm just gonna go off on a tangent, so I'm gonna move on to Battle of the Sexes, a movie that really it's really interesting. It's based on the what's it called? The match between Billie Jean King and Robert Larimore Riggs, or Larry Riggs, and so wow, right on the mic. I should not have done that. Anyway. So it's an autobiographical film or biographical film, and it's just about that one match, and Emma Stone's character, Billie Jean King, is trying to, first of all, she's a lesbian, and then also she's trying to get women's rights a little bit further into the world. No, am I saying it right? No, she's trying to further women's rights. And so she and I'd say about 9 other women break off from the regular tennis circuit, and they go and start their own tennis tournaments. And it's doing well. People like it. then Larry Riggs is down on his luck guy. His wife wants to leave him, but she's still very supportive of him. So that was it was very strange for me to see this woman go, I can't see you suffer like this, but you know what? You do what you got to do because you're doing the best of it. So, but they have, so then anyway, what was I talking about? So Larry decides he wants to fight the number one he wants to play the number one in tennis. Number one turned out to be Billie Jean King. She says no. He goes to another woman. He beats her, and she just cannot live it down. Billie Jean King decides to take the match, and she eventually wins. But the entire movie is essentially, it's either talking about the match or talking about Billie Jean, who is sleeping with I don't know if this woman's real, and I doubt she is, but she cheats on her husband with her hairdresser. And it's a really good tension-filled movie. It's because it takes place in the 70s, and you just can't have that kind of thing happening back then. But oddly enough, there's a lot of comedian cameos in this movie. So we got Eric Christian Olsen, who you haven't seen in years. You got Natalie Morales, and then let's see who else is in there. We got Fred Armisen and Wallace Langham and Chris Parnell and John C. McGinley and Tom Kenny. It's a very strange hodgepodge of people. Alan Cummings in the movie, he plays a big character. Bill Pullman. There's a lot of people that are in this movie and who sometimes get nothing to do, but I enjoyed it, and I hope it gets nominated for. It got nominated for two Golden Globes, but I hope that, and they got a SAG Award nomination too. But I hope they get an Oscar nomination too, because that's a good movie. And let's see who wrote that. We got written by Simon Beaufoy and directed by Jonathan Dayton and Valerie Ferris. They all did exemplary work. Let's see who the Simon Beaufoy guy. Oh, he wrote 127 Hours and Trust, the TV series that's coming out soon. And okay, cool, good for him. And then we got Jonathan and Valerie. Oh, they're a team, or I guess they're married. Whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing to me. Anyway, they all did a really exemplary job. Moving on. I saw It this weekend, and it was fine. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I can't believe that they did a remake of this movie and it was good. It was, I would say it's overrated, but I really enjoyed the way it looked. I was prepared to, I don't like things that, I don't like very popular things. I noticed that. I don't know what's wrong with me, but sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But it's not well paced. I will tell you that much. And I know everybody's saying it already. I don't care. I don't want to go. I like watching horror movies, but I don't like watching very popular horror movies. If I'm going to see a horror movie, I'm going to see people get killed. I can't be distracted with who's famous and who's not famous. And also, I don't like children. Every time one of those kids was on screen, especially that the little boy from Stranger Things, did not like him at all. His character made me filled with vitriol and anger, and I don't understand why they had to cast him, or why Stephen King. I'm gonna blame Stephen King. I don't know why he had to write that character like that. Finn Wolfhard, he pissed me off. His dumb glasses and his stupid face and the way he spoke. Also, I don't like when kids curse. But that's how kids talk. I guess when would that movie take place? When did that movie take place? Because it had to be 30 years later. So it's 1988. So 30 years later, it took place in 2018, and they're shooting it, I assume, now. And there's a sequel, obviously, because the clown comes back, and spoiler alert, he doesn't kill anybody. Oh, he doesn't. They don't kill him, and he's gonna come back in 30 years. So they all agree. And the weird thing is, they all agree on a blood pact, and they cut their hands with a piece of glass from the ground, which was the most disgusting thing. And what the heck was that? Oh my god! Oh my god! My Google Home went off. Crazy. This is a very professional outfit we've got here. Anyway, I have a lot of story issues there. And then also, it's 134 minutes long. I would say that's about 15 minutes too long. A good horror movie needs to get in and out. And the issues here are that there's 7 main characters. They've got the Losers Club, what is that? What they call themselves? Let's see what the book calls it, because the book calls it the Losers Club. So we got these 5 boys, and then they have a girl that joins, and then this little fat boy who's reminds me of a Goonies character, and Truffle Shuffle. He does the Truffle Shuffle. Anyway, they picked on that kid a lot. The fat kid if it weren't for his friends, he would have been dead at least 3 times. He was slashed. That bully cut him. He got beat up, and he was trapped in the basement of the library. So many bad things happened. So many bad things happened to this little fat boy. I can call him fat because they call him fat in the movie, and so there you go. That's not anyway. So they had the main issue was that they had all of these. They had a coming of age film in the middle of this horror movie, which we don't have time for. So they had to introduce every single boys and girl. They had to introduce all the characters' fears. Then they had to introduce why the characters fear that, and then they had to introduce and then spend time with killing the fears, which you don't have time to do that with A, 7 kids, and B, a horror movie that runs 134 minutes long. It is too long. It ended at, I watched that movie. It ended at like 11:30 midnight, because I kept pausing it for some reason. So it's probably my fault. Anyway, but they had Cary Fukunaga wrote the screenplay alongside Gary Dauberman and Chase Palmer. I only know Cary. He's an Asian guy. He's very good at what he does. They're all good. That movie was written very well, and I do appreciate all of the, like I said, it looked really good. I can't believe that when you saw Pennywise, when you saw Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, the dancing clown, also his dancing was hilarious. I did not get scared because his dancing was hilarious. But when you saw him pull back his mouth and it has all these teeth, and him going down into the well and all those kids going down and seeing the floating kid, it just looked, and the blood coming out, there's blood coming out of a sink. It's amazing. It looked really, really good. I think they really captured the novel and the original movie. I think the original movie is 185 minutes long. I think they did something that they couldn't do back when that movie came out. And I'm glad that it exists. I was fully ready to hate it. I was so ready. And now I'm here singing its praises. But there are still a lot of things that I would change about that. So, especially that Finn Wolfhard boy. Oh God, I dislike him. Anyway, it's a good film, and you should see it. What I would have done though is I would have shot it like Lord of the Rings or any one of those other movies that are shot back to back. If they want to do it, they're going to do a sequel with people who are older and the 30 years later. I would have shot it back to back. I would have casted that movie if they casted this in 2016, 2015, I would have shot both back to back and then have this next one coming out in September, because in 2019, there's probably going to be 4 other horror movies, including a Conjuring sequel that I will, of course, go see because I love the Conjuring films. And an Annabelle movie, another Annabelle movie, a third Annabelle movie. There will be a third, because there are 2. There'll be a third one, and another Ouija movie that's a prequel to the prequel. I love horror films. Like Hush. Oh my God, so good. Deaf woman who has to fight 3 guys off from killing her. Oh, so good. Housebound turns into a comedy about 30 minutes with the third act. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it was good, but I really would have shot it back to back like Lord of the Rings. And I assume how The Hobbit was shot. I don't know. I'm looking at the Hobbit collected edition I have right now, extended edition. Anyway, yeah, so there we go. And also, I think Jessica Chastain said she would like to be in the sequel, so we'll see about that. And I saw Idris Elba too. But I think that the kid that Idris Elba would play is too light-skinned for him. So they need to get somebody a little bit more light-skinned. Not skin shaming, because I am very dark. Anyway, moving on to the final topic. We got Netflix cancels Maria Bamford's show, which is it's very sad to see something so different and wonderful just end, and after with no type of applause or anything, but I'm very happy for Maria Bamford to even have that show gets started and created. If you didn't watch it, of course you didn't watch it, because not many people would, of course, watch Maria Bamford if they don't know who she is. It's a show that the first season chronicled her coming. Maria Bamford, she very publicly suffers from a personality disorder, and she disappeared for a couple of years, and I think that show is basically covering those years and her comeback and everything. And it's very satirical. It's also created with Mitch Hurwitz, who did the Arrested Development, the overrated Arrested Development TV show, and now it's not coming back. And it came back for a second season at the end of last year, but now it's just not coming back at all for a third season, which is sad. She's a very funny woman. She's had 2 specials on Netflix. I gather the reason why Netflix is really on a canceling spree, but I gather the reason why they didn't pick this up was because of, I would say, views, just not enough clicks for the return, and this show is not like the other shows that Netflix has canceled. This show is widely critically acclaimed. People really love this show, critics included. Everybody loves this show, so it's very strange to see them. And Judd Apatow's Love has been canceled. It's gonna, after the third season, is gonna be the last season. That's coming out in February. So the only reason Love and Lady Dynamite, both critically acclaimed. The only reason I can see why these are canceled is because of views. And to anybody thinking that Netflix is not like a regular network, they very much are. They raised their prices by $1. Same thing they did last year. So I think they raised prices $2 or $3 in the past 2 years. And pretty soon, I think the highest tier is going to be $15. And instead of acquiring more shows, they're just going to produce their own shows like they're doing now. But I'm saying, instead of acquiring like the rights to air New Girl or whatever, they're going to just have their own stuff, and it's going to be just like HBO. It's going to be $15, and that's all you can do. And they're going to and everything else is, all the streaming rights are going to be going between them and Hulu and Amazon Prime, who are drastically behind Netflix in terms of producing things. So, but Amazon does have an Oscar, something that Netflix will not have for at least a while. Anyway, but it's sad to see these 2 shows go, especially Love, because I love Love so much. It's created by Paul Rust and his wife, and it stars him and Gillian Jacobs. Gillian Jacobs. I said Gilly. Anyway. But that's not the other shows they canceled recently were Haters Back Off, Girl Boss, Marco Polo, Bloodline, The Get Down, Gypsy, and that one show with all the gay people on it. What's it called? Oh, I watched one episode. Sense8. Yeah, and that's coming back as a movie. I wish every show had the community of Sense8, because when Sense8 was canceled, petitions rang out, but not like petitions that wouldn't work, petitions that actually worked. And now that show's coming back for a third for a third season. That's really a movie. That's really cool. I really think that if Lady Dynamite and Love could get that, that'd be really wonderful. But those other shows, Haters Back Off, Girl Boss, Marco Polo, Bloodline, Gypsy, and The Get Down, that were canceled, those shows weren't well received. And I specifically remember seeing a bunch of reviews not being happy about it. And I'm not a person who just reads reviews and doesn't watch anything. I watch stuff all the time. And Girl Boss was created by Kay Cannon. I love Kay Cannon. Get Down had a lot of people I enjoyed in it. Gypsy was not interesting to me in the slightest. Bloodline, no. They had a good life, Bloodline. Haters Back Off had 2 seasons. If I could just get 1 season, that'd be great. Anyway. But yeah, it's just sad to see these shows go. And to anyone thinking that Netflix is not like, it's not like, Comedy Central or ABC or FX. No, they're very cutthroat. And just because they're spending $8 billion this year on original shows and movies alone doesn't mean that they'll cancel it. They will cancel something. And I don't know. It's just a shame. Just a shame to see these things go. Especially when you like a show so much. And for it to get unceremoniously canceled. That's the issue I have with binging. It's just, if you parse out a show and you talk about it, they'll see it. But if you just, watch a show at once and then go, oh, that was good, and you talk about it once, that's it. So I guess the real issue is not binging, but it's just talking about it and just being a vocal about your favorite shows. So if you liked Lady Dynamite, before, when season 2 came out, you should have just been like, oh, I can't wait for Lady Dynamite. Like prior to that, I can't wait for Lady Dynamite season 2 when it comes out. Oh, I'm watching it right now after it leaves. Oh man, I can't believe I finished Lady Dynamite season 2. You just gotta talk about these things. I think that's the easiest thing to do. It's a shame. It's a shame to see such good people lose a show. And it was, oh my God, it's a shame that the show was so well received and it's getting canceled. No one is safe in this world of peak TV. I'm surprised a bunch of shows are still on. Do you know that there are 3 tiny Real Housewives show? What is it called? Tiny Housewives? Tiny Housewives. I don't know if it's called Tiny Housewives. Yeah, Tiny Real Housewives. Yeah, they're called Tiny Housewives. Whatever. It's crazy. Of Atlanta. They have Atlanta, the Tiny Real Housewives. Is that what I'm saying? I don't know. Oh, wait. I think I'm doing this wrong. What is it called? What are these? What is this? It's a show. It's a show about tiny women, little people, little housewives. That's what it's called. Little people. They're little housewives. Little Housewives. That's what they're called. Little Women. All right, whatever. Who cares? They're called Little Women, okay? The TV show is called Little Women. It's a spinoff of Little Women LA, and there's another show called Little Women Dallas. And these each have several seasons, several episodes. And these people have thousands upon thousands of followers. And they get, I'm looking at the ratings right now, they're getting solid ratings. Little Women Atlanta is getting 1 million per episode, almost 1.5 million for some. That's insane. TLC is raking in the money, and they do 2 seasons a year. Little Women LA has 6 seasons, 112 episodes, and these people have their own Wikipedia pages. They have their own Instagram accounts that people love, and people. I don't understand it. And they're starring in movies. I don't even understand it. They're not good movies, but still, it's crazy. How is this possible? What kind of world do we live in? All right, I gotta go because I gotta work. So anyway, if you like the show, why don't you? This is a great way to end this podcast. If you like the show, why don't you head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where we get the latest news, reviews, features, interviews, and other good comedy bits that only I can provide you with. You can follow us on Twitter at cpluscomedy. Follow me on Twitter at ChadBlackWhite. Like us on Facebook. Head to the webpage, youtube.com/cpluscomedy to watch our premiere show, News Time, which is a show where I do news about the week. This week's episode is, I do a follow-up to last week's Facebook story. But this week's episode is talking about how Spike TV, and just at the time of this posting, at the time I post this podcast, in just 2 days, it's going to turn into the Paramount Network. And Paramount Studios, the movie studio, the Paramount Network. And it's going to be this whole thing at 9 o'clock on the dot. They have a live lip sync battle. They've got mini series coming up, like Waco and all this stuff. Go watch the episode. It's a really good episode, and it's probably the best of the year so far. Anyway, thank you for listening. I very much appreciate it. Thank you for listening to my rambling. I love you. Okay, bye.